I did. I went evangelizing again. So, um, basically, I went 3 times now. When I say evangelizing, I mean spreading the gospel. That's what that is. I went down to the university in my city. And I went now for the 3rd time. So far, I've talked to 2 people. I tried to talk to a third, but he just didn't answer. He kind of looked at the wall and walked past. He had his headphones in. And, yeah, the first guy that I evangelized to, he was actually like a very helpful guy. So I pray that God be with him. He also turned out to be an Orthodox Christian. And we talked over Telegram. He took down my contact info, and I thought it was he basically like really, we kind of just agreed with each other, but we weren't, we were both kind of saying the same thing. But I think he was sort of, I'm not even sure really. Maybe we were kind of agreeing with each other, but we were trying to like get to the same speed, I guess you could say. And he used the term, which I really didn't like the term. He said post-Christian West, and I really did not like the term. I don't even like saying it now, but it was kind of interesting because I asked him, like, where did you get that? Why do you say that term? Where did you get it? And he said that it was kind of like his own term, and he's just saying that because of the mass, as he calls it, apostasy from church teaching that we see now. And I agree with him. It really is. But he also said that there was an argument to be made that we've been away from the church for the last 1,000 years in Europe and the West, since the Great Schism. And I read, he said some stuff, and I read it, and yeah, I said, yeah, it seems like a definitional argument about, well, what really is a Christian region. And if you're using the Orthodox Christian definition of Christian, which personally I do, we believe that's the true church, and if you're using that definition, it's pretty strict compared to what people generally agree is a Christian area. So he was saying, like, for the last 1,000 years it hasn't been Christian within those articles, but then he kind of changed. I said, like, oh, it seems like that's what that's saying, but he said he kind of changed and went back a little bit and said that it was just his own term that he was using to describe the current apostasy in the West, which is like very, very far from Christian teaching compared to what it was, right? So, yeah. But he also made like helpful comments to me about getting a blessing from the priest and being cautious of temptations and demons if I'm going to go out and evangelize the gospel, which I actually really appreciated. That was, I believe God's providence working through him. And so I'm thankful. I'm very thankful. And I actually did ask for a blessing from the priest. And the priest at first, he didn't give me the blessing, but he gave me encouragement. And I messaged him back. And I was kind of upset about it, actually. I messaged him back and said, I think you misunderstood me. And then he messaged me back, and he apologized. And he apologized and said, and said that I have a good heart, and he gave me the blessing. And I was really happy when I saw that, when I read that. Like, I felt bad that he apologized, because I don't like making people feel bad, basically, which I'm working on, It's more important to be truthful than to try and spare everybody's feelings if they're in falsehood, you could say. But at the same time, I felt really good though, because he gave me the blessing, and I was just very thankful to God at that point, because I felt good about it. And I don't know how to respond to him. Like, I'm not great at talking to people, seriously. But I need to respond to him, and I'm just going to say thank you. And I really appreciated what he said, But I am. I also ordered the books by Father Seraphim Rose, the ones that that first guy whom I evangelized to, he was recommending me to read him. And I will, I'll read him, read his books. It seems like it could be useful because he's worked out some of the arguments, and I'm interested in hearing the arguments because one of his books is Genesis, Early Man, and Creation, I think, or Genesis, Creation, and Early Man. And so it's a contrast or a comparison. It's a long book. I don't know if I'll be able to read all of it, but it's like 1,200 pages. But he's contrasting young Earth creationism with evolution, and like that the universe is 14 billion years old. The Earth is like 4 or 5 billion. So I'm really interested in this argument because I have heard different things, and I really don't know what to believe on the subject, because some people seem very adamant that the Earth is only like 6,000 or 7,000 years old, or I'm not sure, but that's the young Earth creationist position. But obviously everybody reads or learns in school, they learn the Big Bang and evolution and this stuff, which that's kind of what I believe. So I'm really interested in the arguments. Maybe there's a good argument for the other side, but the reason I believe in that stuff is because I guess it just makes sense to me, but maybe it's because it's what I was raised in. But fossils and I guess you could say like geology and archaeology, or not archaeology really, but more like geology and these kinds of things. I think like, well, the Earth must be older because there's like, I don't fully understand all of the science behind it, so that's why I'm interested, because some people try and dispute radiocarbon dating, and I don't fully understand the science behind it, right? I take it on authority, so but I'm I'm interested to read about it, right? Maybe there's a good argument for their side, right? So it's kind of good to know the arguments on both sides, and also to make up your mind, right? So anyways, and I also evangelized today. I went out this morning, and I talked to one person, and that person was kind of like a gentle, soft-spoken man. He seemed kind of Middle Eastern, and his name was very Middle Eastern, so I thought he might be a Muslim. But I just said again, I said to him, I go and I stand at the library where there's kind of like a pretty big entrance, and there's a lot of people going past, and I was pretty nervous to be doing this still. I have pretty bad social anxiety. It's really hard to talk to people, but I stood there for quite a while. And I was sort of like very nervous at first, and people were giving me quite a bit of room and walking kind of far past. Some people walked close, but I really couldn't pull the trigger, let's say, on who I should talk to. And I sort of got into the flow a little bit. I don't know how better to put it, but just kind of being there, and then I kind of relaxed a little bit, and people were sort of walking kind of around me and close to me a little bit more. It's kind of funny because it's more women that do that than men, really. um, and it's sort of like sometimes people, it's like once you sort of start to become like part of the environment for other people. Like they're part of your environment, but you're part of theirs as well. And it's like you're kind of like another fish in the sea or whatever. You're in this medium, and then once you sort of like are in the flow, quote unquote, then people just kind of walk past you, right? And it's really, uh, I don't know, that just sort of happens. But um, yeah, I said, well, first I made eye contact, and a lot of people, you look at them and then people will look at you, but then they'll look away right away. This happens a lot, right? And you kind of have to be a little bit, I don't know about careful, but you have to have right intentions, because if you look at somebody, if it's another man, if you look at another man and you hold eye contact and stare, it can turn into like aggression really quick. This is just a real thing. You'll notice this in the zoo, like with monkeys or chimpanzees. There's like a video on YouTube of some guy was like challenging a monkey, like he was or a chimp in the enclosure. He was like standing like this, and he was making like, like noises to the monkey, and he was staring at it. And in the primate world, or in like the animal kingdom, I guess you could say, if you do that to the alpha of the group, you're asking for a fight. Essentially, it's aggression, right? So yeah, I don't know. It's just I would say my intentions are not really to start a fight. My intentions are to preach the gospel if people are open to it. So I made eye contact with this one guy, and then I introduced myself, and I was kind of like very nervous actually. So I just said, "How are you?" Like I said, "What's your name?" And I gave my name, and I said, "Nice to meet you. How are you?" And like, I'm trying to not do that. I'm trying to not ask "How are you?" because it's kind of a false solicitude. I do care, but I don't really care on that level of like surface level asking someone how are they, like, because I'm a stranger first off, and if a stranger asks you how are you, you're not gonna usually give your genuine answer. So I was kind of like I was nervous. I said that, but then I asked him, can I talk to you about Jesus Christ? And he said I'm not religious, and I said I understand. Have a good day. And he said you too, and he left. But so I talked to another person today, and I expect a lot of people will be like that. I don't expect to talk to a lot of people and them, be like, oh yeah, tell me about Jesus Christ. I would love to be converted. That's not really how people are so much, but people may be open to it, right? That's the idea. And so it's a planting or a watering of seeds, and God will bring the increase, as He sees fit. So it's God's plan. And I'm thankful if I can be a part of it. That's where I stand, my position. And and somebody else actually, when I was standing there, came up to me and asked for directions. And I was considering asking them if I could talk to them about Jesus Christ, but I just answered their question for directions, saying I don't really know what they're looking for, and wish them a nice day. But I asked their name as well, though. But so a lot of this is just me getting used to talking to people. I'm really not that good at talking to people, and I think that goes for a lot of people. Have a somewhat of a level of social anxiety, especially now with the internet. Everything has changed. Internet culture has really changed people, phones and everything. Everybody's on their phone all the time. Everyone kind of seems not so friendly perhaps, and also the COVID thing. That changed people's social dynamic. That changed the social dynamic drastically, because for a long time, everyone was kind of on this strange level of either paranoia or observance of that paranoia and reaction to it, or irritation, or something along the lines. But it was like we all got dragged through it together. And part of that was there was like the made up social distancing guidelines. That was completely made up. Fauci said later on that that just sort of happened, was his quote. They didn't. That's not. It wasn't scientific or anything. The 2 meters, 6 feet, that was just made up. But people adhered to it because it was dogma at the time, and you had to follow that, right? And people didn't want to like go close to each other, because what if the other person is a quote unquote Karen and freaks out on you, right? So it really did change how people stand in lines, just the closeness that people get to each other. It's starting to go back now, right? Because it's been years. And in some places it's gone back way quicker than others, but it definitely had an effect on people. And yeah, so I would say social skills have been impaired for a lot of people. And it actually does impair people, like especially because a lot of people grew up through that. So they just didn't learn what was normal, like if you're in school or whatever. And that's like a big part of what school is supposed to be. It's kind of like a daycare, and you learn social skills. It's not just for learning math, science, and other things. A lot of it is a daycare, right? And a lot of people don't even really learn those things very well. They just sort of get like a very basic understanding, but they learn social skills, they learn social dynamics. And for a lot of people, that's what's more important and interesting to them, which I don't really blame them, actually. I sort of was under the impression that, all of these things were way more important, but that's kind of just something that teachers say on repeat, or other people will say on repeat, but the social part is really important as well. And the math and science stuff, it is important too, though, because it reveals things about reality, about the world we live in. Okay, so yeah, I sort of left after that, after I talked to him, and I kind of noticed some people looking at me, like the librarian, and they didn't look so friendly. I don't know if I'll get kicked out eventually. I may get kicked out eventually if I keep coming back to the same spot. If somebody makes a complaint, then the librarian will come up to me or something. So I may get kicked out, I don't know, but I'd like to know the rules for evangelization and that sort of thing on the campuses. And if I get kicked out, I can just go somewhere else. Yeah, so yeah, but yeah, the university is like a kind of a good spot, you could say, just for obvious reasons. Like, it's generally friendly. That's what they try and make the environment be like, right? The thing is, though, that they will kick you out if you are seen as breaking their rules. So yeah, I would have to just find out a little bit more about that. But yeah, I don't know. I could also go to a mall. I could also go to a different university, or something like that. But yeah. And then also I had so just more updates about my day. I had the chiropractor. I think it was yesterday. It was a good session. The chiropractor's really helping my back. My back's getting a lot better. I had a low back hernia, or herniated disc. Sorry. My disc was crunched in the low back, and it was really painful. But he's really helping in it. When I go to the gym now, I'm able to do a little bit more lower body stuff. I was kind of just doing upper body because it was so much pain. And I'm not exactly sure why I got a herniated disc, but I have to be careful of it because it's like excruciating pain if you put too much load onto it. And even just without load on it, it was so painful as well. So yeah, he's really helping with that. So I'm very thankful to God that he is helping me. And then also I went to therapy today. I still see my therapist, and she's good. She's helpful, and she's interested in the Christian, the spiritual aspect stuff. And I tell her about it because I like that I can talk about it with somebody. And so yeah, I tell her about it. And I think a lot of the things I say are kind of just a lot of true things. I try not to be a liar. I try not to do that, right? That's important, to not be deceptive. But I say a lot of stuff that's kind of true, but I say the stuff that other people are somewhat afraid to say. And I'm not saying that like, give me a lot of attention for doing it. I'm saying I say that stuff from the perspective that, you know what, if no one talks about this, if things don't get better, like, so, yeah, that's my point with that. It's like someone's got to say it. Someone's got to do something. Someone's got to acknowledge what's going on and then have an idea of what to do. Because a lot of people, maybe they acknowledge what's going on, but they don't do anything. They're not able to do anything. And I think it leaves people feeling very bad, and angry and something else, like maybe despairing or something. But it's important to be able to do something that is good, that is just, that is right, that is moral, that's like, it gets you back on track. And necessarily that can lead to conflict, right? So anyways, yeah, I felt actually a lot of stress leave me today. It felt kind of randomly, but it was just because I had this like delusion that I needed to be so successful. It was kind of like a success delusion. I've had that for a long time, but it's because when I was growing up, we were so poor. We had no money. Like, we were on welfare. It was like single mother. I have 3 siblings, so 4 kids, and like, we didn't even have food sometimes. I'm not saying it was like we had food never, but like some days, like legitimately there was like nothing in the fridge, or it was just like crap. You could like no nutritional value, whatever, but we were like super poor. And when you're in that position as a kid and you go to school or you go around in the world and society, and people are kind of like constantly putting it into your head that success is, you need to be successful, and you have to make a ton of money, and that's the solution to all the pain that you feel. And it's just like, it's like almost like impossible for a kid to really understand that. I know it can drive a lot of people, but the question though, and the important question, is what does success look like? And for a kid, it's kind of like an unsolvable stress. So that unsolvable stress, it's just kind of been with me for like a very long time. And so today I was thinking, well, I'll be all right. All I have to do is make enough money to pay rent and pay bills and for food, and I'll be okay. So I can get a part-time job, or I have some money saved up, so I'll be okay. And what's important though is that, to me, is that I go out and I learn God's word and I live God's word. That's more important to me. So, yeah. So that's why I'm going out and evangelizing. I'm trying to do something about the predicament, or the world we live in, the human condition, like the soul that we have. That's more important to me. And again, I'm not trying to exalt myself. I'm trying to remain humble in doing that. Okay, so this was well, I'll just say it, like I felt like I had like a minor or a medium exorcism happen to me while I was praying. This was yesterday. And just a word of caution and everything, this stuff, it's real. If you believe in God, then you necessarily, this other stuff is real, like demons, the devil, evil. Like if you believe in good, that stuff is also real by definition, because essentially evil is the separation from good. So that's how that works. And yesterday I was praying, and I was praying to Saint Michael. I was also praying the Holy Trinity, like I pray every morning, and I felt like I had like a minor exorcism or a medium. I'm not sure. Like I'm not all versed in this language very well, but it was like a demon inside of me was getting angry and was becoming enraged. And so I just kept praying, basically. And I just kept praying to Saint Michael the Archangel. A very powerful prayer. And it was like again, like a demon inside of me was becoming enraged at that. But I would say deeper down, and my body was kind of like thrashing a little bit as well. And I know that sounds really weird, but deeper down inside of me, I kind of knew that I'd be okay. Like, if you have faith in God, that's what faith is. It's a very deep thing, and I know that God is greater than the devil or demons, and so I just kept praying, and yeah, I think a demon left me, or I'm not sure. Like, I pray that it did, but I just have to remain humble as well. Like, I'm trying to remain humble and not prideful, because if you talk about this stuff, like, people don't want to admit or talk about this because it could lead you to be ostracized or criticized or shunned or something of this nature. But I pray for I put my faith in Jesus Christ. So that helps me to not be prideful and to remain humble. Yeah. Whew. So speaking of which, I'm going to sound like a hypocrite now for this next part. But I still use these dating apps. Like, I switched, so you can switch your location on Hinge. It's like a dating app. I switched it to in the States, like in the south of the States, and I just have to say that the women down there are way better than the women up here. And by better, I mean they actually believe in God. Like, they're in most of their bios, they're talking about faith in God or going to church or something like that. And they're also beautiful as well, and they look genuinely happy. There's a weird thing, like if you look at the people up here in Canada, they seem so stressed. And the women look like sometimes half psychotic. And I'm not going to be really mean by saying that, but it's just there's so much stress, I think, going on in the country. and things are so inverted as well, where the men are following the women, and the women are like being put into a position where they're supposed to be leaders, but it's like the women are told that they should be leaders and, you know, boss B words and whatever, and so it's just kind of crazy up here. But that puts women into an unnatural role, and they get annoyed, like they get angry, and they get upset because naturally most women, they want to be submissive to a strong man. They don't want to be submissive to a weak man, but they want to be submissive to a strong man whom they can trust and can lead them, right? But what you have now is like men have all of the responsibility but none of the authority over women up here, and in most places in the West, I guess you could say. But that doesn't work. That formula doesn't work because it's not aligned with nature. But yeah, the reason for that is no man wants to stop the buck, because it's like everything will crash down onto you, right? And men know this. We know we're outnumbered. We know we're ideologically, we are in like a stranglehold, or we've been beaten into submission. And it sucks. You get henpecked. Like, you'll get pecked into submission by women. And it's like, why does that happen? Well, there's women in all positions of authority now. And they're writing laws, and everything. And so it's codified. It's written into law. And you'll get, you know, called a sexist, a misogynist. You'll get, you know, you'll incur reputational damage, essentially. And so it's like it's a thing like what's that Japanese thing, like the nail that sticks out gets hammered down or whatever. But that's kind of how it is, and that's sort of I guess it's not necessarily a bad thing in Japan, because if their society is set up right, well, why would you need to stick out if things are going well? But up here, things are not going well. I'm serious, not going well. And another thing is, and I'm not trying to rag on women too much, but they're all covered in tattoos. It's like, dude, the tattoos don't look good. But why does everybody want to get tattoos? It's like, well, what is up with that? There's also, and I'm not trying to be really mean here, okay, this is just factual. There is a correlation between amount or body coverage of tattoos, percentage-wise, and mental illness. So if your body is covered in 25% or more tattoos, you're more likely to have some sort of a mental illness. I think if it's covered in like 50% or whatever, there's like a huge likelihood. I don't know, but there is a study on that. And I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm just saying that like these tattoos don't look good. I don't know why everybody's getting them. And there's also a correlation between them and mental illness. And I'm not trying to be mean to people. I'm just like, yeah, I don't understand all the tattoos, but it's kind of social. It's kind of like a social phenomenon, really, I think. Same thing with that like bull nose ring. They call it like a septum piercing. Does not look good. It does not look good. You know, so anyway, of course that's my opinion, and other people can have their own preferences, but I'm just saying that, yeah, I don't think it looks good. And yeah, I'm also getting a little bit better at talking to women, but it kind of feels a little bit pointless, because if I talk to them on the dating app and they're in like the southern United States, you know, they're not here. Like, what am I supposed to do? And it's weird too, because sometimes, you know, I'm still not very good at talking to them, but the conversation goes fairly well. It's not going on a long time, but a lot of them are like interested in church and God, and I wish I could find I wish I could find someone like that up here. It's pretty tough. But yeah. And so the gym is going well. Thanks be to God. Um, I'm still doing my cold plunge. I need to find a red light therapy protocol, because I don't know if I'm using it correctly. Like, I don't know what the protocol really should be. And I need to rest from the gym for like a day, maybe two, but probably a day. And I also need to get back to doing more low body. I've been doing a lot of upper body. I've been trying to get my bench press to 2 plates, like 225 pounds. It's been a goal of mine for such a long time. And I'm 30 years old, and as you get older, it doesn't get easier for muscle growth. And I think you reach your max strength potential at about age 30. That's not to say that you can't get stronger at other times. That's max strength potential. So if you were to have been as possibly strong at every point in your life, training as much as you could, at age 30, you would hit your limit or your ceiling, I think. That's what I saw in a study. And that's, I think, how it is. That's how I interpreted it. But yeah, and then you can gain muscle as you're older in life, but it's important to build it when you're young. And I'm not like super young or anything, but I'm saying like it gets harder after you get to be 30. When you're, in your teens to 20s, or in your teens and 20s, that's like your maximum, or that's when it's easiest, pretty much. Yeah. And yeah, but I'm still enjoying going to the gym. I really like going to the gym, actually. And my lower back has improved a lot. So I'm going to do more low body at the gym. Work on my legs some more. Just so I'm not very like disproportionate. I don't really love training legs or anything, but yeah, I would like to improve my legs to be stronger, and and get back to doing deadlifts as well. And another thing is, I had a fairly decent evening, like a pretty good evening with my mom the other day, which is a big deal for me, at least, because a lot of times there's a problem. Always it doesn't feel well afterward. But it was pretty good. It was pretty decent. And I explained to her my book idea, and she gave me pretty decent feedback. Said it was kind of interesting, or she found it interesting, I guess. And she couldn't understand physicalism and materialism. I think she's under the naive realism paradigm. So naive realism is that you think that everything that you can touch is like real. You think that's reality. It's not. And there's a few ways to refute that, but I was trying to explain to her, like, no, it's not true. It's your perception. And the interface theory by Donald Hoffman explains that well, but I think there's other ways to break out of materialism or physicalism within the within philosophy as well. But I broke out of it, you could say, with I guess it's psychology, but that's the idea that we have 5 senses, but they're just interacting with things in it as an interface. So like the screen that you're looking at right now, it's not the computer, it's not the phone, it's just a screen and an interface. You can touch it and tap it and move things around on it, but that's not the coding, that's not the hardwire, the circuitry. So if you ask, well, what's the computer? And someone says, oh, okay, well, it's YouTube. That's the computer. No, it's not. So it's the same way with with our five senses. We are interacting with essentially like icons on a desktop, same thing. And I know it feels very real, but that's it's refuted and pretty much proved to be not true through the interface theory of perception by Donald Hoffman, or I think there's some philosophical ways you can get there to refute physicalism and materialism as well. I think the philosophical way is the presuppositional argumentation or presuppositional critique, and that would include like the transcendental argument for God is one way to get out. And then also, I said love you to my mom, which is kind of hard for me to say. But it didn't feel like so bad, and she gave me a hug, and that was nice. So yeah, that was nice. But I say pretty good, but I'm wary. Like, I'm careful, right? Because in the past, it's like when things are going good, and then you just get stomped on. It's like every time you get your hopes up that things are going good, you get crushed. So that's why I'm kind of cautious with that. But yeah, it was a pretty good evening. And then I got my neck trainer in the I got a neck trainer in the mail. I ordered it off Amazon. It's like a thing. It's like fits on your head, and then there's a chain that hangs from it, and it's a harness for your head, and with a chain, and you can put weight on it, and then you can basically like train your neck. The reason I got that is because I want to develop a bigger neck, like a stronger neck, for aesthetic purposes mainly. Because people with a big neck, they look more, I don't know really. I don't know if I'm looking for like, I don't really want to be formidable or anything, but I just wanted to have a stronger neck to have a better look, like more developed upper body basically. I need to get the weights, and also I need to get a grip trainer, or no, I have a grip trainer for my forearms. So yeah, I'm working on these different parts, and they're sort of like show muscles, and I know it sounds kind of vain and vapid, but I'm kind of over that. Like, I'm over worrying about that so much, because I think that like physical exercise and developing your body, I think that's a good thing. And yeah, I may go out and evangelize tomorrow. I'm not sure. But so I want to read from the book of Acts. I'm on chapter 10. I've been reading the book of Acts because since I've been going out and evangelizing, that's what the Acts of the Apostles, they're doing that a lot in the book of Acts. So I'll read here. Acts 10, chapter 10. There was in Caesarea a man called Cornelius, a centurion of the regiment which is called the Italian, a man righteous and God-fearing, as were all in his household, who gave alms to the people abundantly and always sought after God. Very openly in a vision, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he saw an angel of God who came into him, and said to him, Cornelius. And he looked at the angel and was afraid, and he said, What is it, my Lord? And the angel said to him, Your prayers and your alms have come up for a memorial before God. And now send men to the city of Joppa, and bring here Simon, who is called Peter. Behold, he is staying with Simon the tanner, whose house is by the seaside. And when the angel who spoke to him had departed, Cornelius called 2 of his household and a soldier who believed in God and was obedient to him. And he related to them everything that he had seen, and sent them to Joppa. The next day, while they were on their journey, drawing near to the city, Simon Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about noontime. And he became hungry and wanted to eat. But while they were preparing food for him, he fell into a trance. And he saw the heaven open, and something fastened at the four corners, resembling a large linen cloth, was let down from heaven to the earth. And there were in it all kinds of four-footed beasts and creeping things of the earth and birds of the air. And there came a voice to him, saying, Simon Peter, rise, kill and eat. But Simon Peter said, Far be it, my Lord, for I have never eaten anything which was unclean and defiled. And again the voice came to him a second time, What God has cleansed, you should not call unclean. This happened the third time. Then the cloth was lifted up to the heaven. Now, while Simon Peter was bewildered, wondering in himself what the vision he had seen should mean, the men who were sent by Cornelius arrived, and inquired for the house in which Simon Peter had been staying, and they came and stood at the door of the courtyard. And from there they called and asked if Simon, who is called Peter, stayed there. While Simon Peter meditated about the vision, the Spirit said to him, Behold, 3 men seek you. Arise, go down and go with them, without doubt in your mind, for I have sent them. Then Simon Peter went down to the men and said, I am the man you seek. What is the purpose of your mission? They said to him, A man called Cornelius, a righteous and God-fearing centurion, of whom all the Jewish people speak well, was told in a vision by a holy angel to send and bring you to his house, and to hear words from you. So Simon Peter brought them into the place where he was staying and welcomed them. The next day he arose and went with them, and a few men from amongst the brethren of Joppa accompanied him. And the next day they entered Caesarea, and Cornelius was waiting for them, and all his relatives and also his dear friends were assembled with him. And just as Simon Peter was entering, Cornelius met him, and threw himself at his feet and worshipped him. But Simon Peter raised him, saying, Stand up, I am but a man also. And after he had talked with him, he went in and found a great many people had come there. So he said to them, You know well that it is unlawful for a Jew to associate with a stranger who is not of his tribe, but God has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. This is why I came at once when you sent for me. But now let me ask you, for what reason have you sent for me? Then Cornelius said to him, 4 days I have been fasting, and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, while I was praying in my house, a man dressed in white garments stood before me, and said to me, Cornelius, your prayer has been heard, and your alms are a memorial before God. But send to the city of Joppa, and bring Simon, who is called Peter. Behold, he is staying in the house of Simon the tanner, by the seaside, and he will come and talk with you. At that very time I sent for you, and you have done well to come. Behold, we are all here present before you, and we wish to hear everything commanded you from God. Then Simon Peter opened his mouth and said, Of a truth I perceive that God is no respecter of persons, but among all people he who fears him and works righteousness is accepted with him. For God sent the word to the children of Israel, preaching peace and tranquility by Jesus Christ. He is the Lord of all. And you also are familiar with the news which was published throughout Judea, which sprang from Galilee after the baptism preached by John, concerning Jesus of Nazareth, whom God anointed with the Holy Spirit and with power, and who, because God was with him, went about doing good and healing all who were oppressed by the devil. And we are witnesses of all things which he did throughout the land of Judea and in Jerusalem. This very one the Jews nailed on a cross and killed him. Him God raised on the third day and made him seen openly, not to all the people, but to us who have been chosen by God to be his witnesses. For we did eat and drink with him after his resurrection from the dead. And he commanded us to preach to the people and to testify that it is he who was ordained by God to be the judge of the living and of the dead. Of him all the prophets testified that whosoever believes in his name shall receive remission of sins. While Simon Peter spoke these words, the Holy Spirit descended on all who heard the word. And the Jewish converts who had come with him were seized with amazement, because the gift of the Holy Spirit was poured out on the Gentiles also. For they heard them speak with different tongues and magnify God. Then Simon Peter said to them, Can any man forbid water, that these people who have received the Holy Spirit just as we have should not be baptized? And he commanded them to be baptized in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, and they urged him to remain with them a few days. That's a powerful verse. Okay. Well, thanks be to God. Good night.